And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
This is your RBLR Rays podcast. I'm your host, Zach Dodd, with my co-host, Pat Davenport. Pat, how's it going?
I'm doing good. It's been this season, man. What a weird season this is. Can I join the pod this time? Can I go back in time and change it? And can we talk about the 13-game win streak? Because this season's really weird and hard to talk about, I'm telling you. But I'm otherwise doing good. And, they are giving us stuff to talk about. So we have that. I'm very excited to talk about this very strange Rays season so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's what any of us expected. I think we once we saw the injuries, we thought maybe it was going to be a little bit of a slow start to the season. But we're going to talk about it. What's been going on has been some kind of uncharacteristic Rays baseball has been happening. And I think that's why the vibes might be a little bit down. But hey, the season rolls on. We're going to talk about the series from the week that was and take the temperature of the American League East as well. We've got your bat and arm of the week. And we're going to talk a little bit about when some of our most important stars are hopefully going to be coming back. If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor and subscribe. Hit that like button. It means a lot. Thanks for sticking around when we did some live streams recently. If you want to get notified when we do more of those, follow us on all the socials so that you get the notifications when that stuff happens. We may tell you when we're going live, we may not. And if you want to be a part of that experience, you got to be following us. And also follow us on Spotify so that you can get notified when the pod gets uploaded there. And wherever you're watching from, just share us around a little bit. We're always glad to have you around, and the more the merrier. So we're looking at these series of this last week, and it was kind of a rough scene. Although it started off in a good way with finishing out the San Fran series with a series win.
Yeah, absolutely. I said on my Twitter, which you can follow me on, by the way, at Depressed Rays, that this felt like it was maybe the second comfy win of the season. And by comfy win, I mean a win where it feels like we didn't just squeak it out and get by the skin of our teeth. Like we won by 5 runs and we were up by more than that at certain points. We just absolutely obliterated Blake Snell, which was, I guess, had some sort of satisfaction to it. And apart from the second game of the season, way back on March 29th, when we beat the Blue Jays 8-2, it feels like every other win that we've had has been like a hold on to your seat, like pray that whoever was coming in from the bullpen doesn't blow it up in the 9th. Or it was a back and forth extra innings win, which we'll probably talk about in a minute. So it was really nice to just get a comfortable Sunday afternoon, relaxing game for once, because it feels like we haven't had many of those this year.
Yeah, this is the first game since that second game in the series where our margin of victory is more than 3 runs. Which, if you're not on the other side of the slam, it's not a comfortable victory for the most part. I mean, you can be confident that your pitching is going well. I think the game 4 of that Angels series kind of had that vibe where the pitching was kind of clicking. So I wasn't ever really concerned we were going to lose the game. But if you're now on the other side of the slam, there's always a chance something could go wrong. And this game, we got on the other side of the slam, which is great. It was weird because I liked Blake Snell a lot. I was sad when he got traded. I mean, it was fun to watch him win a Cy Young. I remember playing narrative ball when the discussions for him winning Cy Young over Justin Verlander were going on and trying to push the narrative that Blake Snell was the deserving Cy Young. So I mean, I have lots of really fond memories with him, but he's kind of a fun guy to shell because he's got kind of a negative personality sometimes. So it was fun to it was fun to score a lot of runs. It was fun, but in a weird way to score it against a guy that we used to cheer for so much.
Yeah, his return to the Trop did not go well, but the main thing that's satisfying about getting Blake Snell is that means he didn't have to go that deep into a game, because he can be whatever side you're watching him on. He can be a frustrating guy to watch pitch, even if you're rooting for him to succeed, because he does nibble a lot. He's not a particularly efficient pitcher. I mean, when he won the Cy Young with the Rays, he's very much I will throw the most dominant looking 5 innings you have ever seen, and then I'll be gassed. So yes. I will get, pitch 5 to 6 shutout innings, striking out 11 guys, but I'll also walk 3 and go 3-2 on every batter I face. So the fact that we didn't have to do that and we just got him out after a couple of innings was satisfying and good for the pace of the game. Like I said, it was just like a nice Sunday afternoon leisurely watch that wasn't stressing me out. And I think us as Rays fans, we could have done with a game that didn't stress us out.
Which, and hopefully this is the last time we're ever going to have to talk about this, but this just goes back to what your point about him being kind of a baseball terrorist when it comes to the way that he pitches. I don't know why anyone who actually watched Blake Snell pitch was mad that Cash took him out in that game, because you've all seen it. If you've watched Blake Snell for more than like one season, you've seen him just absolutely implode out of completely nowhere. And if anyone in baseball at that time would know when he was about ready to blow, it would be Kevin Cash. So anyway, we're going to never talk about it again. But the other really fun thing about that game was the Rene Pinto revenge game, after there was some rumors of Ben Rortvedt kind of being the guy. Rene Pinto said, no, I don't think so. 2 home runs. One that was absolutely destroyed to dead center. I mean, that was super fun to watch. And it goes into what we talked about before the season, is that Pinto, while he's not going to hit for average, he's never going to, the power is there. And you saw it on display in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember me and Zach Blaine were talking about whether or not Ben Rotvet is going to be the new catcher numero uno, and we were a bit unsure. I mean, it seemed weird that he was getting so much playing time when we had all these indications that Rene Pinto was going to be the number 1 guy, so much so that they weren't really fussed about who the backup is. And then they bring in Rotvet, and suddenly it felt like a 50-50, and then Rotvet started to get a bit more of the time. But then Rene Pinto was like, don't forget about me, guys. And you know what? While he hasn't, been setting the world on fire to start the season, I think maybe we have got maybe a top 3, maybe even top 1 catching tandem in baseball. Whoever's out there between Rotvet and Pinto, that's not a dead spot in the lineup. And to do that at catcher is really impressive, to have both of your catchers be quality ABs, but also quality defenders as well, which is really reassuring for a franchise that has really struggled to hold on to good catching long term.
Yeah, I'll real quick throw in my 2 cents on that. I heard you guys' discussion on that. I'll throw in my 2 cents real quick on the catching situation. I would not be shocked if the motivation for Rortvedt getting so many starts early in the season is because there is a knowledge that Pinto is going to be the guy later in the year. And so as many innings as we can save off of his knees as possible early in the year, let's do it. And while Rortvedt is hot, let's let him play and let him get out there. I have nothing I have seen has made me think that there's any change in the organizational stance that Rene Pinto is C1, but it's clear that they're going to let the hot hand ride, because they know we're going to need Pinto later in the season to be the guy, because as much as it's been fun watching Rortvedt, he's got a nice arm, the framing is not there with what Pinto can provide, and the pitch calling is not always great. And I think that's something that we've kind of seen. We saw it last night. I don't know what happened. We'll talk about it later, but there was that pitch to Juan Soto. Not sure what happened, but there's nothing good was going on there. It's not all on Rortvedt either. It's not. I'm not saying he's the one who threw the pitch, but it's when you go and you look at the pitching performances when he's been behind the dish, there's been quite a few that were not great. So much so that Savali was calling his own pitches when last time Rortvedt caught him. So that's kind of an indication of where he's at defensively. Pinto's still C1, but Rortvedt's been playing really well, and I think you're 100% right. Having good depth at the catching position is something we have not had for a while now, and we kind of snuck up on us that now we have it. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, and in defense of what you were saying about Rortvedt's defensive shortcomings, he did not know the staff. He didn't do spring training with the Rays. He didn't do spring training with the Rays. He was with the Yankees and got traded literally in the day between spring ending and the regular season starting. So he has had zero time except the time he's had in real games that count to learn the staff. So perhaps giving him more playing time is giving him those live reps with the staff so that he can become more familiar with what they can and can't do and how best to call a game plan for them, which can be difficult if you're turning up to a brand new pitching staff, brand new pitching philosophy that you're not familiar with as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's and the Rays pitching staff is not necessarily one that's easy to catch to. There's a lot going on, a lot of arm angles, a lot of weird pitches. So it's definitely fair to say that he needs that time. And I think the one thing that Kevin Cash is going to do, and the staff there is going to do, is they're not going to hide guys. They don't really do that. They don't really. Oh, I guess maybe they're hiding Shenton right now, but for the most part, they don't hide guys on the roster. If you are bad at something, they're going to put you out there until you're good at it. And they know that the short-term pain of whatever bad performance may be there is going to be the long-term gain in the end of the season. So it's a really good point. I think it's a great example of the Rays philosophy at work in ways that we don't always think about, but in ways that are going to pay big dividends towards the end of the year.
Absolutely. So then after the Giants series, we then came to host the Angels. We finished playing the Angels now. We have done all our games against the Angels this season, unless we meet them in the playoffs somehow, some way. But otherwise, we're done with them already, which seems so weird that we're just done with a team's season series already. But we played the Angels 7 times. So easy, all done. We had a 7-3 loss on Jackie Robinson Day. On the opener. Then we had that crazy back and forth extra inning affair, 7-6 win in that one. And then we lost a heartbreaker 5-4 on the Wednesday. And then we squeaked out a pitcher's duel 2-1 in the series finale. I mean, I feel like all of our games against the Angels were super tight and super close, apart from a blowout in each of the series openers. What did you learn about the Rays in this Angels series at the Trop?
I didn't learn this, but I was reminded. And I think all Rays fans should be reminded: the game is not over until it is over. When you are a Rays fan, and sometimes that is a good thing, and sometimes that is a bad thing, and usually it's a good thing with the Rays. Unfortunately, there's been some bad examples of that during this series as well, where we thought we had it in the bag and we did not, and that's really unfortunate. But it feels like this is. I joke about calling them the cardiac Rays, and it kind of feels like they are the cardiac Rays in all the good and bad ways that can be taken right now. They're going to come back and win some games that they probably had no business winning, and they're also going to lose some games they probably had no business losing. And that's just kind of the state of the team right now. And at the end of the day, I think if you were to look at this series and look at how the Rays played, I think the Rays themselves would agree this is not their best baseball they're playing right now. It is some sloppy. So I mean the game 2, the 13-inning game, it was fun because it was a walk-off, but man, innings like 10 through 12 were some brutal baseball to watch. If you watched it, if you're like me and stayed up and watched it, that was some absolutely disgusting baseball to watch. So, but we're over 500. And we haven't lost a series except for we only lost one series. And it's a really weird feeling that we are in right now because we're not playing our best baseball, but we're also still kind of keeping our nose above water. So it's a very weird scenario that we're in right now. But at the end of the day, if our worst brand of, and this is about as bad of a brand of baseball as the Rays play, as what we're playing right now, but if this is the worst brand of baseball we're going to be playing all year, then we're going to be really good towards the end of the season because our worst brand of baseball is still above 500, still not losing series, still, even though we're not gaining any momentum, we're not really losing any. It's just we're just kind of trucking along. And it feels like we're just kind of, nosing our way along until guys get back and some of the bullpen guys figure their stuff out. It's been a frustrating watch, but at the same time, if this is the worst that it's going to be, and I think this is the worst that it's going to be this year, then we're doing all right.
Yeah, I think so. A comment we made a lot over the offseason when we were talking about how this team was constructed, and this is something the Rays have been doing when constructing their roster for pretty much the entire Eric Neander tenure, is that it's not about how high the ceiling is. It's about how high you can make the floor.
Yes.
Because right now, it seems like we are playing pretty close to our floor. Every team will go through a 3-week stretch, maybe a month, where they are playing to their ceiling, and they will go through a month where they are playing to their floor. Because that is how baseball works. You will have a rough patch, you will have a great patch. Right now, our floor is above 500. We have lost one series to the defending World Series champions. And that's it. it doesn't feel like it because we've never really went on a particular run, but we've never went on a particular slide either. Our maximum win streak that we've had is 3, but then also our maximum lose streak that we've had is 2. We have never lost 3 games in a row this year.
Yeah.
So it just feels a bit sticky because we're not gaining momentum in either direction. We're not losing enough to go, we're bad, but we're not winning enough to go, yeah, we're fine. But this is us playing to what I believe, our flaw, because we are missing really key components of our lineup rotation, and we are playing sloppy baseball. We are having some at-bats that feel like we're getting unlucky, where they're getting, line drives hammered right at guys. We're hitting a lot of ground balls at the moment as well, which I don't think is going to be the team all the way through the year. I don't think we're going to be the most ground ball heavy team. We've been making a few errors defensively, which is, I think, more typical of the Rays at the start of a season than near the end of a season. So look how high this floor is. The height of our floor is above 500, not losing series with any kind of sense of consistency, hanging around in the division. We are going to talk more about the division as a whole in a minute, but everyone has been talking about how good the Yankees are, the Royals are, the Braves are. And you know what? Even the Braves, who I believe have the best record in baseball right now, we would be 4 games back of them, 5 games back of them. So, if we're hanging in 5 games back of, the team that is playing their best baseball, who are at the top of the kind of crop of baseball teams, playing their best baseball, and our floor is 5 games back over a few weeks, that's all right, because we're going to play a better brand of baseball at some point in the season, whether we pick up in May or whether we pick up in June. Who knows when that kind of momentum is going to swing the other way, but we are due a hot streak at some point. And as long as while we're playing bad baseball, we're kind of getting away with it and playing above 500 ball, taking a series here, splitting a series against a tough team there, then that's completely fine. And then when we go on the hot streak, we've done enough to keep ourselves in the division race.
Yeah, and that's kind of all you can ask for. I think if you looked at most teams out there, maybe not all, but majority of the teams out there, if you said, we're going to take away key pieces in your rotation, we're going to take away your key left-handed bat, we're going to take away your key depth left-handed bat, and we're going to take away maybe your best bat overall on the team, we're going to take all that away, how you think you're going to do. Most teams would say, we're going to be in real trouble. And also your bullpen's going to pitch worse than it's ever pitched before. And most teams would say, we're in a lot of trouble in that scenario. And the Rays are in kind of whatever. It's not great for sure. I mean, and over the last week, the Rays bullpen has put up -3 WAR. That's not ideal. That's not what we're looking for. They have a 3.16 walk per 9. Not good. 4.21 ERA, not good. But again, over the last week, we're 500. I think most teams, if you said, hey, your bullpen's going to be really bad and over a full week, how do you think your team's going to do? Most teams would say, probably not good. We're probably not. We're gonna be happy with 500, and that's what the Rays have done. And the game that they lost last night was, you could say it was because of the bullpen, but maybe it's because of the defense. It was just kind of a bad, overall showing. One bad inning really blew it up. But overall, that was a game you should have won. So take all that into account as you're looking at how the Rays are playing right now. The point about creating a high floor and the proper way to do team construction is a great one. And it's something we talked about all offseason, and we're going to keep talking about it. Because one of the things that I said when we were talking about team construction is you have to build a team that can withstand the loss of key pieces for a short period of time, not for a whole season. Nobody can build a roster that good. But you do need to be able to hold your head above water if there is an absence from a star player. And that's what we're looking at right now, absences from star players. We are hoping to get some of those star players back sooner than later, but right now they're not there. But guys are stepping up. They're playing well enough to keep us above water, and that's all you can really ask for in a scenario like this.
Yeah, I mean, who are our best players right now? Richie Palacios. He's getting regular. He's had to step up because we lost Josh Lowe. Ahmed Rosario, he is playing because we've lost the likes of Brandon Lau and Wander Franco, right? Same with Caballero, because we lost Taylor Walls. Jose Caballero, he's been one of our best players this season. Ben Rotvet, I mean, he's been out of nowhere. We acquired him as a backup. All of our best players are the people that we brought in to step up in the absence of another player. Weirdly, the players that are underperforming are the ones we're expecting good performances for, like Yandy, like Randy, those kind of players. And you know they're going to come good because everything about their profile and their career up to this point tells us that they're going to be better than what they currently are playing, and they're due some positive regression. Randy, historically, has been a pretty slow starter, apart from last year, and I personally chalk that up to him getting some more game reps earlier by playing in the WBC. Yes. But it usually takes a minute to warm up, and he'll go on a tear in like June sometime. So like, we just got to stick with it. It is like, don't get me wrong, I understand why everyone's frustrated with the team, because being in 500 limbo can be really frustrating, because you're not bad enough to kind of go, right, we're bad, but you're not good enough to go, yeah, we're definitely good. It is frustrating to not know and being stuck in this kind of like 50-50 limbo. But I think the pendulum's going to swing in a positive direction soon. Will it be this week? I don't know. Will it be in May when we start to get guys back? More likely.
Yeah, and when you look at just over the last week, you look at a guy like Richie Palacios. So you mentioned he's hitting for a 256 WRC plus over the last week. Like that's something, that's kind of production that you would not have expected out of him to begin the year, and it's been needed, because when you look at the top 4 guys just over the last week in WRC plus, it's Ben Rortvedt, Richie Palacios, Ahmed Rosario, and Isaac Paredes. Only one of those guys you would expect, and right below them is Rene Pinto. So like, that's your top guys right now. Your Yandy Diaz, even though he is playing, probably as bad as he's going to play all year, he's still hitting to about a 91 WRC plus over the last week. So he's still being kind of okay. It's the guys like Randy that are kind of driving you down right now. But again, you said it. He's a slow starter. He got off to a hot start because of the WBC. I completely agree with you. And he's always has at least one really bad month in a year. Maybe he's getting his really, really bad month out of the way now. That would be great. That would be great if he was. But because this team is built so well, they have guys that have the potential to perform the way they are currently performing right now, and guys like Palacios and Rosario. And they're filling those holes as needed. And you mentioned it, and we don't talk about it very much, but I do think it's fair to say there is still a hole on this team shaped like the number 5 that they have not quite replaced yet, and they have not quite repaired it yet. Caballero has played as well as I could have possibly hoped he would play, which is great, but you cannot deny the hole that is currently in this team that has not been repaired yet. The good news is there are guys on the way to fix that. You just go take a look down at how guys like Carson Williams have been tearing it up in Double-A. He's not long for Double-A. He's going to be coming up very soon. Junior Caminero came back off injury and immediately just destroyed baseballs. And so, like, the reinforcements are there. They're going to be coming. We're just in a season right now. We're in a portion of the season where we're seeing kind of the worst of the Rays because of the injuries, because of the lack of a guy that you built your franchise around. You're seeing that. But I think if you took those kind of players away from literally any other team in baseball, like if you went to the Yankees and you said, goodbye, Aaron Judge, goodbye, Juan Soto, see how they perform, probably not good. I mean, really, the equivalent for the Yankees would probably be being down Anthony Rizzo, Aaron Judge, and Juan Soto. That's kind of where we're at right now. Like that, that's
their whole starting rotation. Cole would be the equivalent of McClanahan, and then Rasmussen would be the equivalent of Cortez, and then Springs would be the equivalent of like Clark Schmidt or someone. And then you're like, okay, then you're having to go with Marcus Stroman and whoever you can scrape together.
Right. And that's the scenario that the Rays are facing, but because the team is constructed so well, they're still keeping their head above water. So it's frustrating to watch these last series. The Yankee series we just started last night, should have won that game, probably played well enough to win, had a lot of guys on base and just couldn't drive them in. And that's what's maybe the most frustrating thing. Anytime you have 14 hits and you only score 3 runs, Not great.
Yeah, not great at all. But that's baseball. Sometimes that's the way it works. But you'd like to hope you can bounce back. I mean, we'll preview the games ahead soon, but we've got, I think, favorable pitching matchups in the games ahead. Maybe we could take this series. Honestly, as long as we don't get swept at the Yankee Stadium, I think that's acceptable. Because Yankee Stadium's a tough place to play. The Yankees are playing pretty much firing on all cylinders. And where they're facing quite a dilapidated, injured Rays team that haven't really clicked yet. So if we don't get swept and take one of the three, that's okay. If we take the next two games, I think that's outstanding. Because context is important. You can't take games in a vacuum. Context is super important. And also like day games. Maybe this is just me talking, but I don't know if the Rays in day games have been a bit funny lately. Like, I don't know. But day games are always a weird one as well. Like, I know Ben used to make the point about irregular start times as well, and not being able to build into a routine. All three games of this Yankees series are going to be at different start times. So that is frustrating. And then, I think we'll see how the rest of this Yankee series goes. I'm just hoping we don't get swept. If we don't get swept, that's fine. And then if we take the next two games, I think we should all be over the moon.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we kind of move on into the future, I wanted to talk a little bit about Yandy Diaz, because that is someone that we expect better things from, and we've kind of seen him not play up to his expectations. So I dove a little bit into it to try to figure out what exactly is going on. And what's going on is he's swinging more. And I think you might be able to just determine that just from watching it if you're watching the games. But he is swinging about 3% more than normal, which doesn't seem like a lot, but he's also chasing about 6% more often than normal. So it's a combination of he's swinging a little bit more and he's swinging at pitches that are not great. Now, his chase contact is still in line with his zone contact, which is about 86%. So he's making really good contact. But when you're chasing outside the zone, generally speaking, even if you make contact, the contact is not going to be solid contact. And that's where you get into the poor performances that we've seen on balls in play. And if you look at his batted ball statistics and how things have been going there, not good. He's barreling way less than normal. He's making solid contact way less than normal. And I think those things are a direct result of the maybe subpar for him swing decisions. He's walking less than normal. And when you add all that together, that kind of is a pretty good exemplar of why he's performing the way he's performing right now. And I think it's just because he's pressing. I really do. I think he looks around at the situation that the Rays are in right now, and he says, I've got to be the guy. I've got to be the guy to get us out of this slump. Randy does the same thing. He's done it multiple times in the season when guys are hurt. He says, I've got to be the guy. I think Yandy's doing it right now, saying, I've got to be the one to get us out of this. And that's just not how it works. And it's really easy to say that from my seat here in my little swivel back chair in my office to say, hey, don't do that. But like when these guys let the game come to them, they perform better. It's just so hard to say. I can only imagine how hard it is with the lights on you, with the fans cheering, for you to say, I'm going to let the game come to me when you see your team's floundering a little bit, when guys are hurt, when you feel like there's someone needs to come in and carry the squad. And when you press like that, you get the negative results, and it just spirals and spirals and spirals. And I really do think once we get some guys back from injury that he will feel less of a need to press, and it'll kind of come back. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make. I remember my first appearance on this podcast was in July when the Rays were really skidding last year.
Yes.
And I did a deep dive into why that was happening. And essentially they were pressing at the plate. The big guys were pressing. Yandy, Randy, Wanda, they were all just like swinging and swinging and swinging and not doing what they're best at, which is picking their pitches to swing at and then barreling them up. And making good quality of contact. Yandy is a good quality of contact machine, usually. But that was because he also coupled that with an excellent walk percentage. He used to be a big-time walk guy. He would take a lot of walks in the years previous because he knew the strike zone so well and knew when to lay off. I think you make a good point. about him pressing and swinging more. But I wonder if also last year, one of the reasons for his big breakout was because that he was swinging more and kind of swinging earlier. Like he adjusted his timing on pitches that were coming towards him, swinging earlier, getting out in front of pitches to generate more power and more lift on what he was hitting to get those few more home runs and more quality outline drives. Maybe he's like overextended as well in terms of that approach. He was like, hey, my approach last year was swing more and swing earlier. And that yielded, really, really good results for me last year. Maybe he was like, what if I try and do that, but even more? Maybe the results will get even better. And perhaps he's lost the balance on that approach a little bit as well, where he's now swinging at pitches that he shouldn't be because he's guessing to swing earlier as well. So maybe it would benefit of him if he just like took a step back. I know, and again, it's easy for us to say here sitting in our chairs, and if it's as simple as that, but I would tell Yandy, hey, just like, why don't you take a few at bats where you're just looking at as many pitches as you can? Just like look at pitches, remind yourself of what pitches look like without having to swing, what you know you can get to, what you know you can't get to. Just reestablish the zone for yourself, because right now he's only got a 6.5 walk percentage, which is way lower than last year. Last year he had a 10.8 walk percentage, and then in 2022 he had a 14% walk percentage. So this is way down for him. So I would tell Yandy to calm down, basically.
Yeah.
And like, we've got a lot of guys that can hit singles on this team. So if you just get on base, we can move him over with a Palacios walk or a Caballero single or a Rotvet double in the gap. Like, really, the bottom of the order is doing stuff. So Yandy should go, I can trust these guys to do stuff. But we'll see if he changes stuff up or if he tweaks anything between now and next time we talk, see if that yields some better results for him.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I'm not concerned about it is because when you look at his career averages and what he does consistently, when you look at his like swing decisions specifically, they've been almost the exact same for the last 3 years. So whatever is going on right now, I don't expect that to stick. If you want to just kind of have a chuckle, go look at his plate discipline metrics for 2021 to 2023. They're almost the same every single year. There's a couple things that are a little bit here and there, but they're very, very similar. He's a guy who has an approach and knows what he's doing. He did make that adjustment last year where he's swinging earlier. That's why his whiff percentage went up last year. But he has a really good approach to the plate. So right now, he's performing in a way that is not up to what we expect and not up to what he has shown he will do, which leads me to believe that even though it's not ideal right now, he will rebound and get back to what he's going to do. I don't think he's cooked or anything. I think he's just having a slow start to the year, pressing a little bit. And once he gets, a few more guys back in the lineup that he trusts maybe, or when he just gives himself some time, maybe Kevin Cash has a conversation with him, I don't know, or Chad Mottola has a conversation with him and they say, hey, just take a step back a little bit. I think that we'll see him bounce back to the guy we expect him to be.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I mean, it does suck watching Yandy struggle, considering the step he took forward last year, but people are going to go through rough patches at some point in the season. Hopefully we're getting both Yandy and Randy's rough patch out the way nice and early, and then we can just laugh at how they were in April and safe in the knowledge that they're back on all-star form.
If you're looking at your wardrobe this morning as you're thinking about what you're going to wear today as you're out about on the town, and you look and you see that's kind of a rough patch. Like I don't like anything that's going on there. It's below what my expectations are for my wardrobe, and you need to move it back up to what it should be. I've got a solution for you. It's shop.rblrsports.com, where you can get 10% off everything that you would possibly want to buy there with promo code FLAPPY. As I'm going to keep saying it, this is the time to get in on the RBLR merch. The Rowdies, Bucks, Lightning, and Rays all have exciting stuff going on. The draft is next week. The Lightning are in the playoffs. The Rowdies are getting into form. The Open Cup is starting soon. It's just a great time to be a Tampa Bay sports fan. So head on over to shop.rblrsports.com. Get 10% off everything you want to buy there with promo code FLAPPY.
I mean, the word is out there that RBLR listeners are apparently, according to several studies and research, that they are the most fashionable people out there, and that's what is kind of expected of them. So if we want them to kind of, if they're going through a rough patch, the best way to kind of return to their career averages in drip, then they got to go to the shop.
Absolutely. So now that I am very bad at segues, apparently, so I'm just going to just pretend that I had a great segue there into the bat and arm of the week.
That was such a great segue, Zach.
Hey, you are welcome. You are most welcome. I think we have the same bat and arm this week. So, Pat, what is our bat of the week?
Yeah, Pat and Zach's bat, if you want to say that 5 times fast, of the week goes to our favorite flavor of wine as a RBLR ratio, and that is rosé. Ahmed Rosario is our bat of the week. I'm sorry if I've, by mistake, incorrectly assumed your favorite kind of wine, Zach, but for the purposes of this week, it is rosé Ahmed Rosario. Mm-hmm. He was excellent for the Rays this week. He hit a pair of home runs. He hit to a 238 WRC plus. He drove in 6. He stole a base. He was just excellent all across the board. Big hits as well, important hits. Importantly, it felt like he came through with the big knocks, including, of course, the walk-off in that crazy game against the Angels. So super proud of Ahmed Rosario this week.
Yeah, and it was a week where we needed someone to kind of come through, and it's been really fun to see him as a guy that was added really late. We didn't really know what his role in the team was going to be, and he's been thrust into a larger role with the injuries of guys like Josh Lowe and Bilal, and he has been excellent in that role. Honestly, I think I'm not sure what I expected from Rosario when he came over to the Rays, but he has gone above and beyond that. And this last week, he was excellent. He was the catalyst for several wins, including the walk-off, as we said. It's been really fun to watch a guy who has a lot of speed too. He's got speed on the base paths. His defense is not amazing, but the bat has been awesome. It's been fun to watch. I'm very glad the Rays made that late season addition for him, or late off season.
Yeah. And this weekend we can do some narrative ball because he declined money from the Yankees to join the Rays as well. So if he could hurt the Yankees at some point this series, that would be some excellent narrative ball to feed all of our narrative brains. But also, Ahmed, I'm going to take a moment to say, I'm so proud of you. You did it. Finally. You drew a walk. I'm so proud of you. It took you till, I think it was Friday's game against the Angels. No, Thursday's game against the Angels. Mm-hmm. But he drew a walk for the first time this season. I don't think he got a walk all the way through spring training either, but he finally did it. He finally accrued a base on balls. I'm so proud of you, Ahmed. If you could do a few more of those at some point, that would be great. But you did a great job, buddy. Proud of you. I also want to throw a quick honorable mention to Palacios as well. He was also really good this week. I think if Rosario didn't have the walk-off, Palacios would be really close as well, because he actually hit to a higher WRC plus this week.
Yeah, he had a few less plate appearances. He played in a couple less games than Rosario did, but he did play really, really well. He's been super fun to watch. It's clear he's excited to be a part of the Rays. He's excited to be here in the Bay. He had a really fun game last night where he was like almost hit a home run and then did hit a home run later. I thought he had a chance for 2 home runs, but he only came away with 1, but really fun. He's got great speed. He plays a pretty good outfield. He's been fun to watch. He's just another guy that I didn't expect to be playing as large of a role as he has been playing because of the injuries that we've had, but a guy that has stepped into the role that he's been given the chance for and has played really well. It's going to be really hard, as we talk about injuries later in the show, when some of these guys get back healthy. He's a guy that is going to be really hard to send down and might have earned himself a longer stay on the roster than some guys we may think are going to be roster staples. I think he may have earned himself a little bit longer stay on the roster with just how well he's played.
Yeah, I think when Josh Lowe returns, he'll stick around. It's if they want to bring Johnny DeLuca up as well, that's when things are going to get a bit interesting. Maybe that's when we have to finally say goodbye to Harold, unless he can pick up his game a little bit more. It's a while away. Well, Palacios could go on a cold streak by then. We could see, Johnny DeLuca go absolutely off. Harold could go on the run of his life. So log jams are a social contract. We say it every week. We'll just wait and see. Who is our RB alarm of the week?
Our RB alarm of the week is a man with an excellent name, and he also spells it correctly. That's Zach Eflin. He had a 6 1/3 inning start earlier in this week, and even though that I believe they went on to lose that game, doesn't matter. He was awesome. He's been going through this like series where he like has a kind of a meh start, then a really good start, then a meh start, then a really good start. So the next start, if he could just kind of stop having meh starts and just have a really really good start, that would be awesome. But he's still the one in the rotation to me. I've been feuding with several people in the RBLR Rays Discord about who is the SP1 on the Rays right now. I still hold it at Zach Eflin for now. It would be great for my narrative if Zach Eflin could start pitching a little bit better, more consistently. But this week he was excellent. 6 1/3, accrued 3 WAR in one start, which is pretty awesome. Pitched to a 1.63 FIP. Awesome. No runs given up. That's about all you can ask out of a start.
Yeah, absolutely. He was awesome. It's a shame that the bullpen couldn't back him up in that game because he was really, really good. And I think, there's still a lot in Zach Eflin that we've not seen for this season. I think he's going to eventually turn it around. You're right that there is a little bit of a civil war amongst us in the RBLR Rays Discord about who the best starting pitcher in the rotation is. Because on one side we have Zach Eflin, on the other side we have the other Zach Littell, and then I'm sitting quietly in the corner going, maybe it's Aaron Savali, guys. But that's okay. He's he has been pretty good this year as well, I would say. But we also came close to giving it to Ryan Pepio this week as well, because he was really good as well. He threw a really strong 6-inning start as well. I think Eflin pipped him by 1/3 of an inning. But Pepio, what's really exciting is the amount of swing and miss he has in his pitching performances. He's really good at just keeping hitters off balance. I love a good changeup. I love a good changeup, and he has a great changeup. So he's really aesthetically pleasing to watch for me. And again, if he could just sort out his consistency with his command a little better, which I think could happen with more reps, he could be a really special pitcher for us going forward as well.
Yeah, and I think he's also been a little bit of a victim of good start, bad start a little bit. But even in his bad starts, he's starting to get a little bit more control. There, he tends to have like 1 or 2 bad innings, but he's been really good over the rest of the game. And the more that he gets the opportunities and the more that he's just out there, I think that consistency will come. It's awesome to see a guy as young as him be as polished as he is. I'm really excited to see what this full season is going to look like from him. It's been really fun to watch him. It's tough to come over and replace a guy who was such a staple of the Rays for so long, which was what Tyler Glasnow was and kind of part of the identity of the Rays. But he has come over and done really all you could ask so far. I expect that he will earn more RBL arms of the week as we continue.
Absolutely. With Pepio, you can see it all there. You can see the great picture there. It's just like almost there. It's just out of reach from being great. But like, if there's any coaching staff we can trust to pick up Pepio from the like good to great tier, it's Kyle Snyder.
Yeah, it is, and they'll work on the command. They'll work on the location for a couple of his pitches. And at the end of the day, I think we're going to get a pitcher with amazing stuff that is going to hopefully be a part of this rotation for years and years to come. He's under team control for a long time. He's going to be a part of what the future of this rotation looks like. It's going to be really interesting to see where he slots into the rotation when some of the guys come back from injury. But if you're looking at a guy like him and he's maybe down in your 4 and 5 spot of your rotation, that's an elite rotation. That's where he may find himself, but he has pitched well enough that he is going to earn a spot in that rotation whenever that day does come.
Absolutely. So it is now time to take a bit of a broader look, take a step back from the Rays and have a look at the division they are playing in. The AL East is always a cutthroat, horrid division to play in, but that's what makes it entertaining and fun. Currently, the Rays find themselves tied for last in the division, but yet are over 500. They are tied with the Red Sox, both at 11-10. We have the Blue Jays at 11-9, the Orioles in second at 12-7, and then, of course, those dastardly New York Yankees at 14-6 at the top of the division. What we're looking at is we've played 3 weeks of the season ish. How are we feeling about this division? We kind of predicted in our preview pod back in February that the Yankees, the Orioles, and Rays were expected to kind of fight it out for the division, and then the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. The Blue Jays are a tier below, the Red Sox are even lower tier below. Has your expectations or projections of any of these teams particularly changed, or are you still kind of the jury's out?
I actually don't think my opinion has changed on any of them, and it's because I think the Yankees are kind of playing as good a baseball as they're going to play. Baltimore is right around there. They're offensively playing about as good a baseball as they're going to play all year, and then I think Toronto and Boston are just kind of doing what we expected. It's Tampa that's not doing what we expected. They're having a rough start to the year, and I think if the floor for the Rays is being just a couple games out of first, because it's as bad as it's been. We're only like 3 or 4 games out of first place. I think it's 4 games we're currently out of first place. Three and a half that we're currently out of first place. We could close that gap over the next 2 games if the chips fall in the correct direction. And then you're talking about even more of a mosh pit than it already is. If you look around baseball, there's not a whole lot of teams that are really separating themselves, at least not in the positive way. There are some teams separating themselves in the other direction. But for the most part, it's kind of a mosh pit all around baseball to start the year. That's kind of what tends to happen, but it feels even more so this year. And I think the AL East is going to continue to be this kind of a mosh pit. I think Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and New York are going to still be fighting around at the top, but Toronto and Boston are not. I maybe was a little too harsh on Toronto and Boston to begin the year. I will say that, but I don't think that my overall outlook on them has changed too much, because I think they're playing kind of as good of a brand of baseball as they're going to play. I think the Blue Jays probably have another gear they could go to. Boston, I think, is kind of playing up to the top end of what they can do. I don't expect that to continue the same way I don't expect the Rays to continue to play poorly. I expect maybe if we look back in like 3 more weeks, I think we're going to see this flip a little bit. I think we're going to see Boston down towards the bottom. I think Toronto, Baltimore, and New York are going to be in the same place that they currently are. But I think the difference is the Rays are going to rise up. I don't know if they're going to get above Baltimore yet. I think they will eventually. Baltimore's gotten off to a good start, but I think the Rays will eventually start to rise back up through here. And I mean, the difference between last place and third place is like half a game. So it's a wild division. It's always going to be that way. It's the American League East.
Yeah. With the Red Sox, they've given up 82 runs, which is second fewest in the division behind only the Yankees, and their pitching has been really good, which doesn't sit right with me, just based on what their pitchers are projected to be like. It feels like their pitchers are overperforming slightly. I may be proven wrong on that, but it just doesn't feel right that the Red Sox are kind of thriving off their pitching. That's not how I expected that team to work. And then the Blue Jays are like the Rays, where we've got a negative run differential, but kind of getting away with it anyway. The Blue Jays, again, they're, I think, a team that's going to be quite streaky all year. And then, the Orioles and Yankees are kind of doing what's expected. I think the Yankees are slightly overperforming what's expected of them. And that roster is quite injury prone. I could expect a guy going down somewhere down the line for them, and that could hurt them. Yeah, it's the Rays. I mean, like, I can't believe this, but the Rays have given up 106 runs this year, which is actually second worst in the American League, behind only the Astros, which is also weird. And that doesn't seem like it's going to be what the Rays are going to be forever. So if the Rays just pick it up just a smidge, then we're right back with the big boys. And yeah, it's way too early. I mean, do you remember when the Pirates were really good in April last year, and everyone was like, "Whoa, the Pirates are they?" And then they were like, "Oh no!" It turns out every team has a good month at some point. It's just the Pirates had theirs in April.
Yeah, and I think it's the AL East. It's going to be cannibalistic. We haven't even really gotten into too many of the series between these two the teams in the division yet. When we get into more of that, it's going to continue to just be these teams beating on one another. I think the Rays are going to come on the positive end of that. But I think you're 100% right about Boston overperforming on the pitching side a little bit. I do expect them to come back down to earth a little bit on that. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe Boston's going to be good this year, and I'm totally wrong. And Toronto is going to, and if Toronto's playing just slightly above, league average, then That's kind of what I expected. But I think Baltimore and the Yankees are kind of playing what we thought. We've got some breaking news that has just hit. Some, that has just hit the communications from Rays Communications. The Tampa Bay Rays have selected right-hand pitcher Erasmo Ramirez to the Major League roster. To make room, they sent Jacob Lopez down. Taylor Walls has been transferred to the 60-day IL. Now, I don't know. It doesn't say on here. I'm trying to find out if there's any more info. If that's retro to a certain date, because that would seem like kind of a big deal if he's being put on the 60-day IL like now. I don't know if that's retro back to somewhere. It doesn't say. But
it doesn't say yet, but I would assume it's retro.
I would assume too. How do you feel about Erasmo back on the Major League roster?
Okay, so don't freak out, please, okay? Because I know people are gonna freak out, okay?
They already are.
Oh, are they? Are they freaking out already?
A little bit, just a little bit.
Okay, don't freak out, okay? I will tell you exactly why this has happened. Jacob Lopez pitched yesterday. Therefore, he's probably not going to pitch for the next day or two, especially probably not the rest of this series, okay? Why would you keep a roster spot open for a guy that is not going to pitch for the next 2 days and is also not one of your primary options out of the bullpen?
Yep.
So instead, let's bring a guy up in Erasmo who will not see any time if the Rays play well. let me make that perfectly clear. Erasmo is there as the break glass in case of emergency. We don't want Ben Rortvedt to be like the 7th most used pitcher on the Rays in terms of innings, okay? Erasmo is a mop-up guy. He is there to mop things up if things go wrong. And this is a scary Yankees lineup. If Eflin has a terrible day today, God forbid, and he gets shelled and gives up 6 runs in 2 innings, they can be like, all right, Erasmo, you've got the next 4 innings. We don't really care what happens to you. Just get 12 outs. I don't care what happens in between you coming in and you getting those 12 outs. You can give up 10 runs if you need to. Just get us through the innings so we don't have to use any of our good guys. That's all it's there for. That's all this roster is. It is completely fine to put a plaster on your bullpen by calling up a mop-up guy for a couple of days. Is it sad that Jacob Lopez is going straight back down? Yes.
It is a little.
That brings into question the kind of usage of Lopez yesterday, really, that he only pitched an inning. It was only an inning, and we kind of thought that he might be getting a start or like some bulk work somewhere, and then he didn't. He only pitched an inning, whether that's because Alexander was quite good and they just thought, well, we'll keep him in. But it was a little confusing that they brought Lopez up only to pitch an inning and not for bulk work and then to send him back down. But I'm assuming Lopez was like an emergency kind of call to the bullpen while they felt a bit deprived in that area where they had a lot of guys that they didn't want to use because of how much they were used in the Angels series. But hopefully next time Lopez comes up, he's going to get some bulk work and not just an inning, because I would hate for him to be the kind of Luis head of it all and getting yo-yoed up and down. So I guess we'll see, but don't freak out about the Erasmo thing. It's just we've got quite a taxed bullpen because it was used so much in the Angels series, and we don't want to have to use any of our primary options if anything goes wrong against the Yankees. I mean, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
I mean, Erasmo could also come in if things go really right. So,
that's true.
That's an option too. And the reason why I say that is because if you just look, I mean, it looks bad because we're playing the Yankees right now, and so it feels like, oh no, we're punting on the series. Just look a couple days in the future and see who we're playing. We're playing Detroit at home right after. They've been pretty good to start the year, but it is Detroit we're playing at home, and then after that is the White Sox on the road. So, like, when you look at the teams we're playing in the next couple series, it kind of makes sense because there's a good chance that at the Rays, we would hope that Detroit at home is a series you're going to do well in, and you'd hope to then, maybe be in a situation where you're up a couple runs late in the game. You want a guy like, Erasmo to come in and just kind of take up some innings. If the idea is Lopez isn't going to get a start. They probably want to keep him starting, so it makes sense sending him back down to Durham where he could start. There's also an off day in there next week as well. Is it possible we see him back for the Milwaukee series after the White Sox? Who knows? Maybe it is possible, but it makes sense it does make sense to send him down. I'm with you that it's a little bit weird the way he was used, but it does make sense to bring a guy like Erasmo up when you take into account the series that are coming in the future and the fact that yes, you just sometimes need a guy who hasn't pitched a bunch recently to go out there and take up some innings and save your guys who you do not want pitching those innings.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll just give a quick couple of injury updates before we head off. Josh Lowe is now playing in AAA on a rehab assignment, which is great news, which means he'll hopefully be back sooner rather than later. They did mention that he's probably going to need quite a long rehab assignment because he missed a lot of spring training. So to get up to speed, he's probably going to need quite a long rehab, but that's completely fine. So expect him to be there for at least, I'd say, the next week or so, and then maybe come up end of April, maybe start of May time if all goes well. So a big addition is coming soon. Taylor Walls is not expected to be back like imminently, really. We're just kind of waiting back news on him. Johnny Aranda had the pins taken out of his broken finger, which is good news, which means that he's going to start hitting soon. And again, it's hard to know how quickly his rehab is going to go because broken hands can be a bit of a funny one to get back up to game speed hitting wise, but he's now back on track for hopefully a May return. Taj through a 3-inning sim game on April 17th, which is really useful. Apparently he's going to pitch 4 innings in an extended spring game next, which will be in the next few days, which is exciting. So he could be back probably in May as well. So he'll be a big boost to the rotation. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing. Is there any other injury or roster news that I'm
Boz
missing?
is still going through his throwing program. No real big updates there. We still expect him mid to late June. That's the only other one, really.
Yeah, and Brandon Lau, he's
idea.
We're not even touching Brandon Lau at this point. He's still recovering. He's not even going to come. He's not even close to thinking about rehab yet. So we're just going to have to sit and wait and see. Obliques can be a funny one. They can either take a couple of weeks or they can take a while.
Yeah. I mean, I'd really rather them just let him get fully healthy, especially if you get Josh Lowe back and if Aranda's back and available. Just let him get fully healthy. And like Palacios is playing well enough to earn those lefty at bats. So, I'm good with that staying the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently it was only a grade 1 strain, which is like the least severe strain that you can have. But I remember like Mike Trout had a muscle strain in his calf and it was meant to take 2 weeks and it ended up taking like 4 months. So you just got to wait and see. Like leg muscles can be funny sometimes. So it's just one of those where we pray he gets healthy soon, but don't bother bringing him back before he's healthy. It's only April.
Yeah, it's only April, and all these injuries are rough. It's been unfortunate to see so many of these guys getting hurt and not being available to start the year because you like to start off on a good note. But think about it from this perspective: all these guys that are not out there right now are just going to be all that much more rested and ready when we get towards the end of the year. So that's the way I'm choosing to spin it. That's the narrative ball I'm going to play is that, hey, all these guys are getting rested. So when we get to the end of the year, they're ready to go. They're all good. They're super rested. That's the narrative ball I'm going to play. And I'm going to hope that comes to fruition.
I like that a lot. A stat I wanted to just throw out on the pod, and we're not going to end on a negative note, so we'll think of something positive to say before then. But just to let you know that the bullpen is like definitely unsustainably bad because like there's no way that this is how it will be in even 2 weeks' time. Ben Rotvet currently has 4 pitchers worse than him in terms of Fangraphs pitching WAR this year. So Ben Rotvet threw 2 innings to a negative 0.1 Fangraphs WAR as a position player pitching beat. Kevin Kelly, Tyler Alexander, Phil Maton, and Chris Davinsky all have worse WAR than him so far this season.
Seems weird because Alexander had a nice start last night. He must have.
It might not have updated from yesterday. But currently Kelly and Alexander have negative 0.2 WAR, Maton negative 0.3, and Davinsky a brutal negative 0.5.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk a little bit about last night's game before we go and talk about the Yankee series coming up because there was
Mm.
some good stuff that happened. Alexander Start was really nice. The thing that people are harping on, and I've harped on it a little bit too, is that pitch location to Juan Soto. It's obviously a miss. It's an unfortunate place to miss that pitch, and really, you shouldn't have been in that situation because the defense should have been better behind him. So that being said, we should have won that game. We played better than the Yankees did last night, which bodes well. I'm not going to predict it because I'm going to jinx them into getting swept, but it bodes well for how well they're going to perform during the rest of the series versus the Yankees.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on 2 errors and a 5-run, none of them earned extravaganza
Yeah.
blow-up inning for again. But hopefully the Yankees can have one of those. That'll be
great.
nice.
Nestor Cortez is who they're facing today. He's pitched to a 4.5 ERA so far this year. Don't worry about what Eflin's ERA is right now. The pitcher that's opposing him, don't worry about it. But I think Cortez could be got.
Yeah, I would love him to get got on one of those stupid pump fakes that he does.
I know.
You know that one that went viral earlier this week where
Yes.
he was doing don't get me wrong, I kind of love it, but also it'd be really, really funny if he just got taken 450 feet off one of those.
I feel like I never whenever he does those, I feel like it's never nobody ever just destroys him on them. And I don't know if it's because he messes up their timing, but you're right, that would be pure comedy if he if he just does that to Palacios or to Paredes and they just absolutely destroy one. That would be very entertaining. That's what I'm going to be rooting for.
It's annoyingly that it never gets destroyed, but nobody ever looks stupid on it and swings wildly and misses either. They always just foul it off.
Yeah.
And it's just oh, okay.
Yep, and then then we got Savali in the wrap up game against Luis Gil, who has been pretty good so far for the Yankees. It'd be interesting to see that he's a guy that not a lot of race batters have faced, or at least not a lot of at bats against. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes. But yeah, I think the Rays are. I'm not going to make any predictions because I tend to jinx the team, but I do think the Rays have a chance to come out of this with at least not getting swept. And I'd love to see them win the series, but I am not going to predict it because I said I would not.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I mean, Luis Gil has got some good stuff, and you never know. This Rays offense has a tendency to either completely destroy a starter or get completely shut down by a starter. Yeah. So there's no in between, really. They either get shut down by the starter and then pull a comeback out against the bullpen, or they destroy the starter and then as soon as the bullpen come in, they forget how to hit for 5 innings. It's how this Rays offense has been so far this year, so it's impossible to predict, but you know my feelings on Savali. I know your feelings on Eflin. This is what us RBLR people would want to try and win this series on. And then, of course, Zach Littell kicks things off against the Tigers as well, which is a matchup you'd favor every single time as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then, next time we talk, we'll have done a 4-game set with the Tigers at home, and we'll have the White Sox for a couple of games over in Chicago as well. Who have had a rough season so far.
Tough scenes in Chicago. So I'm going to say the hope is that maybe this will be a get right week for the Rays. No idea. But I think there has some potential for this to be a week where the Rays kind of just bounce back a little bit. Maybe they get on a little bit of a run. If they could find a way to sweep Detroit at home, they could maybe take that into a couple more wins against the White Sox. So who knows? But I think there's a chance for a get right week here.
I mean, the White Sox have played 19 games this year. They are 3-16 with a -61 run differential. They have given up 99 runs, which is actually less than the Rays, but they have only scored in 19 games 38 runs. They are averaging less than 3 runs a game.
Ouch. Oh, that's not good.
So they're 3-16, but their expected win-loss, according to MLB.com, is also 3-16.
That's tough.
1 win on the road. They're 1-7 on the road. They're 2-9 at home. So it's tough scenes over there. The vibes are not good. So whenever you think, oh god, this Rays team's really frustrating and not doing as well as I want them to, go look at the White Sox.
Yeah,
they had some good players too.
Yeah, if we lose a game today and you're just feeling bad, just go pop on over to the White Sox broadcast and just hear the tone of the announcers as they're commentating on what's going on over there, and maybe you might feel a little bit better.
Yeah, thank God we're not doing a White Sox podcast.
I feel whoever's out there, the Locked On White Sox or whomsoever is doing a White Sox podcast, respect to you for continuing in these trying times.
Yeah, they're gonna have that caller from last year on again. I can feel it in my bones. All right, that should do it.
That should do it. Thank you everyone for joining us once again. If you have not already, subscribe, share it around, follow us on all the socials. Maybe we'll go live next week, maybe we won't. But the only way you're gonna know is if you're following us and keeping in tabs with all the awesome stuff that we're doing. And again, this is a great time to follow the RBLR network. There's great stuff happening all around. So thank you once again for sticking around and being a part of this show. And as always, raise up.
Raise up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.